8 days to go, friends. Democrats want to ruin your Thanksgiving. ACB getting through on the Supreme Court. 60 Minutes is fake news. And a Jews for Trump rally attacked in NYC. Welcome, everybody. We are in the final countdown. Oh, yes, indeed. Election day. Just days away. Almost 1 week. Almost the final week of this. I've got to say, the very end here has been moving quickly. The opening phases of this felt like an eternity. And really, I just hope that we have a good outcome. But let's get into what matters right now and the center of the debate over all this stuff. Now, I know last week there was a ton of time spent on Hunter Biden's laptop and also the prep for the debates. How many of you even remember much of the debates? I can tell you I have to think pretty hard. I can pull some aspects of it. The Pennsylvania fracking vulnerability that Biden now has. There are some areas for sure that I think the president scored some points. But as we know, look at the polls. Didn't really move the needle very much. And we're now in these last days where I think everyone's starting to focus in on a couple of things. And hopefully they get it. The economy and COVID. That's it. In my opinion, that's what's going to determine this race. It's amazing that immigration is barely even discussed at all. It's barely even an issue. Healthcare ties into COVID and the economy. But if you look at other major areas of decision point here, if you look at other places where people are still deciding, the fact that the president hasn't started any new wars, the fact that the president has gotten these peace deals in the Middle East, that's not going to be the final, the final straw that either gets him for 4 more years or is the reason Joe Biden is victorious. Which even saying it out loud, it makes me kind of sad, but I think that COVID is the most important narrative in the country right now for politics and this election. And I don't think that I'm alone on this one, but I do believe that there needs to be a much bigger focus on what is reality and what is just a lie. The United States is about to go into another series of, it already has some lockdowns in places, but it's going to go into another round of restrictions, lockdowns, whatever you want to call it, to try to stop a virus that plainly these restrictions cannot stop. It did not work the first time around. It just ripped through areas until the virus was done. That's what happened in New York and New Jersey. That's what happened in the South. It's happened in a lot of places across the country. But we forget all those lessons, or we're forced to forget all of those lessons. And I think a part of that is just the media recognizes that by making us all depressed and terrified and frightened, we're likelier to vote for change. It's more, it's a greater possibility that Donald Trump will not get 4 more years if the American people feel like the country is in really bad shape and terrible things are happening because of COVID. I mean, this is all pretty obvious. You get this. But you're starting to see just how far the left and the Democrats are willing to push us. And also, there's an increasingly obvious, I would say, joy, maybe, certainly desire to continue these restrictions in Democrat states. They like all this control. They like this forced collective action. This is exactly what you're seeing now around COVID is exactly what the Democrats want for the war on climate change, for the war on fossil fuels, for the war on gun violence, or all these things. They want collective action that is inescapable, that is forced by the state on you, even if you don't want it, and that is able to dictate even the smallest, most minute aspects of your life. This is really a dream come true. The power that they have in these lockdowns is a dream come true for Democrats. They haven't had anything like this in a very long time. During the global war on terror, which was the last period when the country felt like it was frightened and perhaps more willing to give up its civil liberties than it should have. During that period of time, Democrats were I won't. I mean, I could take a shot here and say they're on the side of the terrorists, but that's not really fair. Yeah, but Democrats were always opposing the more severe measures to fight the jihadists and Al Qaeda and all of that. They were the dissenting voice, not because I think they have a problem with that. As we know, when Barack Obama was the president, he was the guy using the drones more than anybody else and just deciding who would live and who would die on the battlefield as an executive order. But the Democrats now are in the position where they have put themselves as the arbiters of everything you can and can't do in day-to-day life. And they really like this. They enjoy this. And that your virtue, your worth as a human being now is measured socially and by those around you by your willingness to obey these dictates. This is a massive change. This is a big problem. This is not something that is just going to fade out on its own. We're going to have to fight against this. And if you want to know how absurd, how insane it's going to get, California, why is it the most Democrat, most blue place, most blue state in the country has the craziest COVID restrictions? Oh, not a surprise at all, right? We all recognize that that's what we would have expected. But the new Thanksgiving rules, I know we're about to go into Halloween here, but Thanksgiving will be soon thereafter. The new Thanksgiving rules that have been explained by Gavin Newsom out in California should show you a glimpse into our future if we get a Biden administration, and you will add the insanity at the state level around COVID to insanity at the federal level. Right? They're telling you very openly that these are the plans that they have, right? I mean, here's Dr. Fauci himself saying we want a federal national mask mandate. Play 5.
Well, you know, one of the issues that people that talk about mandating not be a good idea, because then they'll say they have to enforce it, and there's going to be a difficulty enforcing it. But if everyone agrees that this is something that's important, and they mandate it, and everybody pulls together and say, you know, we're going to mandate it, but let's just do it. I think that would be a great idea, to have everybody do it uniformly. One of the issues, though, I get the argument, say, well, if you mandate a mask, then you're going to have to enforce it, and that'll create more of a problem. Well, if people are not wearing masks, then maybe we should be mandating it.
Do you hear that little hint of authoritarian glee in his voice there? Dr. Fauci, this guy has been a public health bureaucrat for decades. Pretty much self-paced, self-assessed work, you know. Just show up, can't really get fired, just do your thing, just be around forever. I mean, this guy's almost 80, right? And he's been in the job for decades. And now he's like, yeah, I think we should mandate. Does he know what a mandate means? It means that police officers are going to walk up to people, what, outside? No? Oh, yes, outside? We're not sure. Probably going to be outside. When inside doesn't work, meaning it doesn't stop the virus, because it won't, then what will they do? Oh, well, you're not wearing masks enough. You got to do it outside, too. You're going to have police tell people put on a mask or what? Or we're going to physically remove you. We're going to arrest you. We're going to lay hands on you. They realize that they're going to be telling 99% of the people that they tell to wear a mask are healthy, pose no risk to anyone. See, this is the inversion of judgment and logic and decency that has occurred in this country now. It used to be health policy was about, yes, assisting, but also separating the sick from the healthy when possible. What we've done is separated everybody now. This is just nuclear option. And this was considered madness in the public health community until this year. This wasn't some new idea. They studied pandemics. They studied the chance of the massive exponential spread of an aerosolized virus like COVID-19. They said, we can't do these lockdowns. Now they can't get enough lockdowns. And here's Dr. Fauci, who, this guy's been elected to nothing. I mean, if Trump wins, you know what he should do? He should fire Fauci the next day. Out. Gone. Bring me somebody who understands the balance between liberty and public health and order. Bring me somebody that understands that there are costs here. Just over the weekend, I saw a piece in Canada, in Ontario, in the Ontario Star talking about how doctors there are sounding the alarm for all of these cancers that are showing up now that are late stage, that should have been caught earlier, but people weren't going in for cancer screenings. Now people are going to die. Yeah, that's right. Now you could say, oh, Buck, we needed to do that to save lives from COVID. Not clear at all that the lockdowns actually save any lives. Remember the initial premise? It was 15 days to flatten the curve. That just meant spread out. Instead of getting, let's say, giving this easy numbers, instead of having 100 cases in 10 days and not being able to get people the health care they need, you have 100 cases over 20 days or 30 days, right? That's what flatten the curve is. We have transitioned as a society because of the media's anti-Trump insanity and because Democrats and the left are a bunch of busybodies who want to tell everybody what to do all the time and believe in the mob mind ruling over society, that you don't have individual rights, that your freedom is all just at the whim of the state, and they want to control the state. But we've now switched to a world in which we're supposed to just kill this virus off entirely by doing everything they say. This is madness. But how bad is it? How bad is it? Well, here's an example. Other than Fauci saying mandate, which means people should get arrested now for not healthy people. Let's really explicitly get into this. Healthy people in this country should be under federal mandate and be threatened with loss of property and imprisonment for not putting a paper or cloth mask over their mouth, even with the very real outstanding questions about how effective is this really? Could you mandate everybody have to wear goggles? Why not? Why not? Just on the say-so of the state. Do they know? They don't know how easily it gets transmitted to your eyes. They know that the eyes are an area of transmission for viruses in general, but they don't know. You're also seeing a lot of people that I know who are sound thinkers on this issue understand there are great doctors, there are crap doctors. There are things that doctors know about health and can really help you with. And there are things that are, way beyond their ability. Any of you go into a doctor and say, I have back pain or I have IBS, and see what they say to you. They don't have some fix in mind, right? They have ideas and modalities, and they might be able to help some. Again, good doctors, yes. But a lot of doctors will be like, yeah, I don't know. Take a pill or see what happens or, cut these 20 things out of your diet. There's all kinds of things they don't really understand. And when you've been exposed to that enough, you realize that you've got to take control of your own health. You've got to take control of your own risk. How insane, though, how brainwashed have the libs gotten during this COVID period? What do you think your Thanksgiving should look like this year? Well, let me stop for a moment and tell you about what the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, and I'm sure soon you're going to hear this from other governors as well, like Cuomo in New York. What does the Democrat governor of California think your Thanksgiving should look like? I recently got a crash course in home title theft, and you better hope this crime never happens to you because it can leave you financially ruined. It goes after your most valuable asset, your home. Here's how it works. The bad guys, they find your information online for your home's title because it's up there in the cloud. It's stored on servers. So they get into it using cyber hacker means. Then they use a quitclaim deed to kick you off, put themselves on, and start taking out loans against your home. You often won't find out about this until the payment notices arrive in the mail or perhaps even a foreclosure notice. You need to take action today to protect yourself with Home Title Lock. Create a virtual barrier around your home's title. All you have to do is go to HometitleLock.com. Use the promo code RADIO for 30 free days of protection. That's HometitleLock.com. Promo code RADIO for 30 free days of protection. You can also check online at the site to see if you're a victim of this crime and don't even know it. HometitleLock.com. Promo code RADIO. Thanksgiving is one of the best holidays. A lot of food, family, friends, gathering together. It's a good holiday. I like Thanksgiving a lot. Top 3 for sure. Okay, maybe top 4. But not in California if you're going to listen to the people that are now using the power of the state to make healthy people obey because of the fears of people who read too much New York Times, watch too much CNN, and can't just go about their lives as adults who understand there are risks. And they should make their own decisions, their own mitigation measures. You see, by holding us all in this forced state of panic, the people that are unwilling to make sound decisions about their own health force all of the rest of us to be in a position where we have to act like we agree with them and their way is the only way. That's bad news. And here's a great example of it. There are new California Department of Public Health guidelines. Just wait, and they'll start fining people, and they'll demand you do this. Guidelines for COVID-19. And, for example, they're telling people that for Thanksgiving, no more than 3 households allowed to gather. And masks must stay on after eating and drinking, and preferably done in between bites. Yeah, that's right. Singing or shouting strongly discouraged. Keep a social distance. Maintain hand hygiene. Limit the gathering to 2 hours or less. I mean, I really want to tell all of these lockdown libs, I want to use only 4-letter words in my feelings about how full of it they are, how nonsensical all of this is. And I'm not saying that there's not a risk of COVID. Yeah, if someone in your family gets COVID, there is definitely a risk. But there's a lot of risks from a lot of things. And putting these restrictions in place from the government doesn't really help anybody. And it makes things, in many ways, a lot worse. The number of people who are scared beyond rational bounds here is enormous in this country because the media has made everybody terrified. Because this is their only chance. Don't you see? This is how they have Joe Biden beating Donald Trump. This is the only way. Joe Biden's a loser. Joe Biden's not impressive, not very bright, not very good at anything. He's just kind of a pathetic Democrat machine politician who is just hoping that he gets, just like he got real lucky by being picked by Obama to be VP, he's hoping to get real lucky right now and be president of the United States. The only reason is because of COVID. Without COVID, Donald Trump sails to re-election. We all know it. So digging in on this issue and letting everybody understand what's really at stake here is absolutely essential. I know there are going to be other shows, and I'll do a little bit of an update on the Hunter Biden stuff today. Fine. But this matters more. I'm telling you, and people get mad at me when I say this, the Hunter Biden emails are not going to cost Biden the election. If I'm wrong, I'll eat crow, but the Hunter Biden emails are not going to do it. Who do the American people think will bring us out of this COVID nightmare faster and better? That's all that matters. For the election, that's it. And of course, that means the economy, and it means our freedoms, and it means a lot of things. But that is the choice that people are faced with right now. And I think that we've lost a little bit of time in making the case. Here's an essential point. Biden's plan for dealing with COVID is rooted in magical thinking that's completely illogical. That 200,000 deaths are on Donald Trump's shoulders. What about what's going on in France and Italy and Germany and the rest of the world, where they've in many cases had more per capita deaths than we've had? Is Trump responsible for all of those too? There was never a plan to stop this virus. It's not possible to stop this virus. And yet that's what Biden is offering to people. This is completely false hope, right? The real way is to stop terrifying everybody, let people start to go back to normal life who are at lower risk, and build up herd immunity over time and get some vaccines out there and just go back to living. That's the choice. Do you want Biden dictating what you can do, whether you can leave your house, or do you want to have your life back? That's what this election's about.
we're at a dangerous tipping point right now. We're entering what's going to be the steep slope of the curve, of the epidemic curve. We know what that looks like from the spring. We know what it looks like from the summer. These cases are going to continue to build. There's really no backstop here. I don't see forceful policy intervention happening anytime soon. We have a moment of opportunity right now to take some forceful steps to try to abate the spread that's underway. But if we don't do that, if we miss this window, this is going to continue to accelerate, and it's going to be more difficult to get under control. Now, in a lot of parts of the country, it doesn't feel really, really bad right now because it's a little bad everywhere. We don't have regions where it's extremely dense in any one region like we did when it was epidemic in New York or epidemic in the South. Outside of states like Wisconsin or Iowa, most states just have a lot of spread, but most states aren't at the point where they're extremely pressed right now. That's going to change over the next 2 to 3 weeks. I think things are going to look much more difficult, and so we need to take some steps right now. There is no public support for shutdowns nationally like we did in the spring. That's not going to happen, so we need to reach for other measures.
Yeah, Gottlieb. That's Scott Gottlieb there. One of the worst after Fauci. Well, what are we supposed to do? Okay, so no lockdowns. You know what they do now? They demand all the restrictions of a lockdown, but they say, oh, we're not locking down. You know, or they give you, 4 out of 5 of the things you need for a lockdown, but then because there's one thing, you don't have mandatory stay-at-home orders, for example. They say that's not a lockdown. No, we're still under lockdown. There are, they opened New York City for 25% dining, and I can tell you, I tried to find a place to eat. It's a joke. Restaurants aren't open. So what is that? That's just a talking point, you see. Without restaurants being able to open, they can't actually be serving customers, meaning unless they're actually going to have people sitting in chairs, turning tables, doing what they need to do to make this a business, they're just not opening. But the people in charge are frauds. People like Cuomo and de Blasio and Gavin Newsom and Gretchen Whitmer and all these Democrats in Congress who are acting like they demand the lockdowns, and then they blame Trump for the economic fallout from the lockdowns that they demand, and then pretend that they have an idea that's not lockdowns to make all this better. What is the Biden plan for COVID? Anyone who says, listen to the scientists, should punch himself in the face. What does that even mean? We've been listening to scientists all along. Hasn't done anything, folks. Curve goes up, curve goes down, curve goes up, curve goes down. Oh, yeah. If we only had everybody just holding hands. No, actually, not holding hands. That's bad, right? But if we had everybody in agreement, we would all just wear the same dirty cloth mask that's porous and that air goes above and below the actual mask itself as well as gets blown through it. If we all just did that, it would all go away. Really? Yeah. How's that Danish study that was with the actual scientific controls necessary to get a real answer? Oh, the study they buried. Right. I wonder why. Yeah. How's all the other stuff that you can find on the CDC website about the helpfulness of mask wearing in influenza season? Or the likelihood of a mask protecting you if you walk into a room and you don't have immunity to measles? If you wear a cotton mask, you know how effective that's going to be for you? 99% ineffective. Okay? That's what the actual studies say. But the measles goes through the cloth and it stops it. Yeah, sure. Sure it does. But here we are. Gottlieb and others are now saying, oh, if only you listen to us more, everything would be better. Okay, what do you want us to do? Not lockdowns, just a lot of stuff that sounds like a lockdown. Shut down businesses, limit non-essential travel, whatever that means. Put curfews in place. The mayor of Chicago, Lori Lightfoot's actually come out and said that she wants a 10 p.m. curfew to apply to Chicagoans' homes. Play 20.
How will non-essential businesses closing at 10 p.m., how will that help get the numbers down?
Well, this is all about mitigating the risk of gatherings and making sure that people wear their masks. So we're trying to do a series of mitigation efforts to look at the places where we know that the risk is highest, for example, in bars, and mitigate against that risk. But the other thing that we're trying to also do, and it's difficult to break through, is people are getting comfortable in their homes and they're having social gatherings. Those are a huge source of the spread. So it's not just what you do outside of your home, it's also what you do inside your home and making sure that you don't invite people in that are not part of your immediate family or otherwise essential to be there, like a home care worker or something along those lines. That's where we're really seeing the spread. The case investigations, the contact tracing is pointing to home social settings as the primary area of risk now.
Who can go to your home now? That's the business of the state. You know, who you socialize with. As we know from the Newsom restrictions, how long you have family members over. After 2 hours, you got to send everybody home. Is there any science for that? We have reached a level of stupidity here that we really need to confront head on. Do you know how much it would help the country? How many billions of dollars we would save? How many people would live an extra 10 or 15 years if we just banned refined sugar? A lot. Oh, by the way, anyone who knows anything about diet and obesity and what's happened in this country, you would save thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. If you treated sugar like it was a, Schedule 1 controlled substance, right? No more sugar added into anything. You'd save you'd stop type 2 diabetes. You'd stop obesity. Well, not all of it, but a huge piece of it. Why don't we do that? Because it's not the business of the state. Because a lot of people can have sugar and they're fine. Most people have sugar and they're fine. So we don't restrict everybody else from being able to have a food product. They want to restrict you from having a life. They want to restrict you. And it's not like for a week or two. That's how they got us. They made us concede our rights for 2 weeks. Okay, we'll be reasonable. 2 weeks, we can all do 2 weeks. Now it's 8 months, right? With a little bit of ups and downs in terms of the severity of the restrictions during that period. Now it's going on 8-9 months. And they're saying masks and social distancing for all of next year, too. That's the Democrat way. Do you think they'll ever admit that this was all completely ineffective and just made everybody miserable and ruined everybody's year and ruined everybody's businesses and did all these things? And they're just a bunch of morons who panicked and didn't want to be blamed, so they just kept on adding more and more of these little petty restrictions on our lives? Do you think the people that think that telling folks to mask up in between bites of food are intelligent enough to understand that their policies are failing and that this means nothing? And all they're doing is making everything worse. Kind of like BLM made everything worse for everyone. These COVID restrictions are just making everything worse. Oh, I'm sorry. It's stopping the disease from spreading. Really? Is it stopping the disease from spreading? We had 80,000 cases in one day over the weekend. Europe has countries that have per capita even more. I think Spain right now is at 50,000, or maybe it's France, 50,000 cases a day. And those countries are much smaller than the U.S. 4 or 5 times smaller in the case of Spain. So what exactly are we doing here? What's being accomplished by all this? Oh, everyone's so scared. They terrified everybody. They didn't admit they were wrong. And now they continue to use that fear to push bad ideas and bad solutions. And so Democrats can walk around like, oh, we would have handled this just great. Even Hillary Clinton, who, as Secretary of State, could not point to anything that she did that was worthwhile other than fly a lot at taxpayer expense on a big fancy plane. That she's good at. But here she is saying that, she would have made this whole thing no problem at all. I mean, the Monday morning quarterbacking on COVID that you're getting from people who don't even understand how to play football in this analogy is mind-blowing. Here's Hillary, play 6.
And you noted that a lot of countries that did best in the pandemic were led by women, whether it was Jacinda Ardern, Angela Merkel. Do you think a woman president in the United States would handle the pandemic better?
I have no doubt, especially if it were me. No, I was born for that. That's why I knew I'd be a good president. I was ready for crises and emergencies, and I would have done what you see these women leaders doing. You listen to the science, you bring in people in a open, inclusive way, you communicate constantly, you make the case by explaining why what you're doing is in the long-term interest, not only of health, but also of the economy. Yeah, I have no doubt in my mind at all that I would have stepped up to that crisis.
So women are better at dealing with COVID-19 as a crisis than men is Hillary Clinton's line here? Oh, and she's a woman and Trump's not, so clearly she would have done better. Friends, It's just crazy times right now. There's no accountability for these statements. When people say things like 200,000 Americans are dead because of Trump, no one ever stops them. The media says, okay, how many would it be dead with Hillary Clinton? Oh, 0. Does anybody believe that? 50,000, 100,000, 150,000. It's a virus, friends. It's a virus that spreads. We have not been able to stop it, and they will not tell you the truth about the ineffectiveness of the measures they've already instituted and how much this has led to an increase in all the things that we said all along. Undiagnosed cancers, people dying from diseases of despair now, the increases in alcoholism. You know, I'm just starting to see in the New York Times, they're adding some coverage now of how those of us who said, like me, back in August, schools are safe, children should be able to go back to school, there is a completely acceptable level of risk, which is almost no risk, to K through 12 children from COVID-19. The data 100% proves that. But do you think all the people that were like, oh my gosh, you're going to murder all the teachers and the teachers' unions and we wear our masks and all this stuff, do you think any of them said, wow, we were in hysterics for no reason? That was really absurd. Nah. No apologies. None. Do you think that they're sorry for the fact that now, especially low-income kids, are falling even further behind? Remember, it's not even just in their test scores or anything like that. In their overall development. Kids need to be around other kids. Kids need to be interacting in the world. We're locking kids up like they're prisoners and telling them to stare at a screen, which there's already way too much of that going on anyway. And I swear, if I see one more parent out in a public place with their kids with their iPad out with no headphones on, I feel like there should be a law that I can commandeer, fancy way of saying steal their iPad until they promise to get the kid headphones. I don't know when we decided we were going to be barbarians and kids are going to be allowed to blast their video games in a public place where there are other people who are trying to, think about what their life is up to right now. This is, I know, a little bit of a digression, but I swear I keep seeing this. And I look at them, do we just have no manners anymore as a society? That's fine. Blast your iPad so that nobody can enjoy their meal or nobody can, be on a train or a bus and have their own thoughts, right? They have to hear the video game that someone's, 7-year-old is playing. But if you pull your mask down in between bites of, between bites of food and don't put it back on right away, you're a murderer. They're turning us against each other with stupidity. The statists, people who believe in government power above all else, they're enjoying this whole process. And they're destroying our society. They really are. They're pulling us apart at the seams. And it's all to take down Trump. Their psychosis is such a large part of this. The reason for their anger and their fear is so much more a result of Trump, actually, than it is the virus. I know that's crazy, but these people, these anti-Trumpers, are nuts. They are nuts. They have been brainwashed into a level of insanity that's hard to comprehend if you're not also insane with Trump derangement syndrome. ACB looking like she's getting through. So that's a victory. Surprised the left didn't make more noise about it. I have some theories as to why that is, but Trump is gonna end up here with his 3 Supreme Court picks. What kind of leadership would you expect from Joe Biden if he did end up becoming president on things like the Supreme Court? What would we expect Joe Biden to say here? Well, here you go, play 9.
If elected, what I will do is I'll put together a national commission bipartisan commission of scholars, constitutional scholars, Democrats, Republicans, liberal, conservative, and I will ask them to, over 180 days, come back to me with recommendations as to how to reform the court system, because it's getting out of whack, the way in which it's being handled. And it's not about court packing. There's a number of other things that our constitutional scholars have debated, and I'd look to see what recommendations that commission might make.
This is a live ball.
Oh, it is a live ball. No, it is a live ball. We're going to have to do that. And you're going to find there's a lot of conservative constitutional scholars who are saying it as well. The last thing we need to do is turn the Supreme Court into just a political football. Whoever has the most votes gets whatever they want. Presidents come and go. Supreme Court justices stay for generations.
There's so much blather in there that it's almost hard to dissect. It's such a dumbass statement from Biden that you're taken aback for a second. Wait, what? First of all, who weaponized the Supreme Court? Democrats. Who got rid of the filibuster, used the nuclear option for judicial nominees? Democrats. Who went after Bork and Kavanaugh, and who has been using the most vicious tactics possible to stop nominees from the other side? Democrats. This has been a one-way war. Now it's just our side saying, okay, fine. You want to play rough? We're going to play rough too. And now they're going, oh no, don't play rough. What are you doing? That's right. Now that we're in charge, at least for the time being, they don't like it. But Joe Biden saying he's going to form a commission. Oh, I'm sure some of the constitutional experts that come forward for this commission that he's going to form on whether to pack the court will be the same esteemed lawyers from Harvard Law School or whatever who came forward to talk about Trump's impeachment and how what he did was an impeachable offense. These people made just complete clowns of themselves, but benefits them to do so, right? Well, you do the Democrats' bidding, you get more money, you get more fame, all the good things the mob, placating the mob can bring you, and the apparatus sitting atop the whole thing that plays the mob like a bunch of little puppets and they don't even realize it. That's what ends up happening, friends. But I just think that's so funny. Joe Biden, we'll hold a commission to determine whether we should pack the court. I don't know, Joe, maybe you should just have some actual ideas. Some ideas about what is right and good and just for one of our most important governing institutions in this country, instead of, well, we'll see what happens after the election. But that's always been Joe Biden's way. What do I have to say to fool low information voters and the Democrat faithful, of course, will vote for him no matter what. What do I have to do to fool low information voters to go to my side? And, it hasn't really worked in the past in terms of getting independents. He's only ever been successful with Democrats, folks. Let's remember that.